Hi everyone, are we live? Yes, we are, I guess. Hi, I'm Liza Rahman, and we have come together with beautiful eight speakers today. I'm really excited to go on with this session as we are going to talk about a very sensitive topic which the society has destigmatized, which is menstruation. As we know, it was 28th of May, which was yesterday, the Menstrual Hygiene Day. And so we have these amazing yet eight speakers with us, and we'll be talking one by one with everybody. This initiative has been taken by Shohochori, which is a wing of a social welfare society carried by Dr. Nistar, who has been working since decade for the upliftment and betterment for the underprivileged people of the society. We have Miss Nafisa Yasmin with us today, and who is the project director of this wing, Shohochori. I welcome you all, and let's start. Are you there, Miss Nafisa? Yeah. Hi. How are you doing, Miss Nafisa? Please unmute yourself. Yeah, right.
Thanks, Lisa, for inviting me and welcoming me to a wonderful session. And we have a really so many lecturers with us. I really
Mhm.
appreciate that they have taken their time from their busy schedule and be with us. And today I will start with the work we are doing here in rural area. Basically, Shauchuri is a project which we have taken for the underprivileged women and the children. We
Right.
work for them for a long time, but this Shauchuri, uh, when we thought about doing something for the women specially, then we created this wing, and this is the unit of Dr. Nista Social Welfare Society. Here, what do we do? Firstly, we started with this menstrual hygiene awareness program. Basically, our thing is our team. We have a small team of girls, and they go to entire area. We try to cover all the villages nearby where I am. I am now at Malda, and here our students they talk to the students, they talk to the women, they talk to the labor class women who work in the field, and each and every one who is in this duration of 12 to 45, 50 years. Actually, we try to make them understand the importance of following hygiene in this period. Not only that, the taboos and myth that we want to make them understand through how to overcome all this. This is our one project. Our girls, they go to the all the villages, all the houses, but and they get so many negative feedback sometimes. Really, this is demotivating, and the way they behave, and people don't want to adopt this new thing. There is so many people, they don't adopt this pad. They say this pads will bring illness to them, and they are easy most easy to eat the clothes they are using and other unhygienic things. Now we with this thing we are into free distribution of sanitary napkin for those underprivileged women. Even getting after getting it free, they are not interested to use it, but our work is to make them understand why they should use it. Not only that, we don't only give the few, we are catering 1000 women every month with these amenities for their safe period. Not only that, beside this, we have pads which is much more available, much more better quality, which is affordable for them, so they can have this use, they can use it, they can make a habit of use this. So beside this, we have also biodegradable pad for all. We talk about environmental sustainable pad and disposal of pad, how they will dispose our goals. They make them understand. We have proper mechanism for that. So all this we keep speaking. And beside that also we work for empowerment through this project also, because our pads this packet they pack it in our own brand. That is one thing. And our pad which we sell and we get very minimum revenue out of that, that is through not through any retail chain or big shop. That is through the women who are local women, who are labor class, or who are general or housewife. They take pad from us and then they sell it within their neighbor, friends, family, etc. So this is in a it's a lots of employment things. So we are offering them, and this is the way we have started. And presently we are working in a rural area. We have planned for install vending machine, actually vending machines. These vending machines to the schools when because of the pandemic, the schools are not open now. So once the school will open, all the schools we have planned for installing vending machine. And not only vending machine, the smelting should be refilled on a proper time or a proper duration. So availability of the pad is the main motto of ours. And obviously biodegradable pad and proper disposal of the pad. At the same time, we have leaflets. We distribute those leaflets to all the areas, and this is the way we are working. So this is the I'm talking about the rural area where we are working. I don't know about. I don't have much experience about urban areas, especially urban slums area, or this kind of where underprivileged people are working. So I'm in deciding. So this area, I maybe we have to adopt something else, some other way of talking, some other way of. So I will request you also to guide me when I am going to urban area. I will personally get in touch with you, all of you, and all the viewers also. If you have some suggestion, please, we are open to get your suggestion. We are open to apply your suggestion also. So please be in touch. And I want to wind up with my this words, and over to Lisa. Lisa, please take it forward. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Miss Yasmin. That was really good, and that was a great grilling session. I guess we are going to have. That was really a nice kickstart. So I'll be inviting. We have Antara Banerjee with us from Mumbai. Hi, Antara. I'm going to switch you to us. Hi. Just a brief about you. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry. Lisa, I am not in Mumbai anymore. Right now, I'm back in Kolkata. Yes.
Oh, hi. Welcome to Kolkata. I hope you're safe.
Yes.
I hope we all are safe.
Mm-hmm.
And just to let you know, I guess, Antara, you are an award-winning author and also from Marketing Communist Branding Specialist. And what I understand is, you know the corporate sector very well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is a question which comes into my mind just to know how free are we to talk about menstruation or menstruation hygiene in this corporative sectors of ours? And what do you think that we can do to change them?
Thank you, Lisa, for the question. In the corporate sector, most of the time, we have educated and urban women. So the question of menstrual hygiene and all that is quite much handled, because they are trained in that, and they have that experience of handling these issues well. But not that everyone has. If you have visited the bathrooms, you would probably know. uh,
Exactly.
but then most of the time there are instructions as well on the bathroom doors to tell people exactly how to dispose the sanitary pads. That is the most important thing that the
Mhm.
corporate women need to know. I mean, their
Right.
the personal hygiene probably they are aware of, but the public hygiene, where they need to understand and take care vis-a-vis others, that is one thing that they need to be more careful about. And if you are talking about men, knowing about this issue, most of them do, because they are also educated men, and especially married men definitely know it. uh, but then the
How
problem
do they
is
handle this? Are they very open to talk? Are we very approachable to those men if we are in any such problem?
um, see, like the natural call, whatever, when we go to the
Hmm.
bathroom, we are not very comfortable talking about going to the bathroom. We just go there, and as much as menstruation is something to understand, it is not something to be glorified out of proportion. We need to understand that
Absolutely.
this is a natural thing. We are not doing any favor to anyone by having periods. So the thing is, that the hygiene needs to be taken care of. And if somebody and one thing that is very important, that this is involuntary. Like,
Hmm.
if you need to go to the toilet, then for quite some time you can control it, and you can go to a conducive place, or wait till the time that you have reached there. But this is something that you cannot control much. So sometimes accidents happen, and that is when the support and empathy needs to come in. That
Let's
is
not call
when
it an accident because I guess this is very natural. It happens to
accident
50% of the population of the world.
no, let's not become so sensitive about it, Lisa, because accident, I'm saying, because even natural call, if an adult is having incontinence, then we actually generally call it accident, right? So
Okay.
so as much as there has to be understanding, we also need to understand that this is something that we are not comfortable to talk about. I mean, so much. Yeah, as in,
Right.
there is nothing to announce it. It's
We
just that
don't like we
we need
glorifying,
to
like you
know.
said. Right.
We need to know about it. We need to understand it. If there is some emergency, if somebody is facing an emergency, then we need to support that person,
Absolutely.
empathize with that person, and there should be no indignity attached with it. That is where that question of dignity arises.
Absolutely.
That is where the work needs to happen.
Absolutely.
Next suppose that there is some staining or something, the next day people should not be joking about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is where the sensitivity needs to come in. Otherwise, it is a natural thing. It needs
It
to
is
be known.
absolutely a natural thing.
It needs to be known, it needs to be understood, and it needs support and empathy. That's all. There is nothing to announce it or glorify it. It's a natural thing. Yeah. And one more thing, Lisa, I think I had discussed this with you,
Mm-hmm.
that I see many promotional items. Last year, I think, I
Mm-hmm.
saw one, a puja kathali
Okay.
with with a sanitary pad on it.
Okay.
Then I had also heard about a protest going on in Jadavpur University where women students were
Mm-hmm.
sticking sanitary pads on the university walls.
Okay.
Now, as much as I'm progressive and liberated, I fail to see the justification to this. Because as I said, that women are not doing any favor to anyone by menstruating. So there is a limit to which you can make it public. You can make
So
make
you
it
think
public.
we need to make draw a line where we need to stop and where we need to talk about this. We do not have to like
Absolutely.
glorify and be very hyping about
Uh,
menstruation. It is natural. Let's take it naturally,
absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
any other thing goes
Yes.
on. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
As in when you sneeze, you put your hands in front of your mouth, isn't it? So there is nothing to
Right.
glorify. I mean, there is nothing to hide. You do sneeze, but then you hide it for reasons of hygiene and as well as reasons of social etiquette. So let's look at it in that way. It's
Absolutely. We
it's
understand we need to, as a society, we need to look at it very naturally, but we've not yet, we need to go far to reach that point to not glorify and to talk about it naturally.
See,
Not to,
Lisa, these things suddenly do not happen in adulthood. These need to be inculcated when the children reach puberty and get interested in such topics. It is very important that the information about these things come from the right sources to them, and they do
absolutely.
not
We'll
fall
discuss that.
they
We'll
do not
discuss that.
fall prey to myths. They do not fall prey to wrong information. They do not get scared, and they should not be conditioned to mock these things,
Absolutely.
men especially men.
Mhm. Mhm.
They also
Right.
need to understand this from a very small
Absolutely.
age, because if you see in schools, uh, the girl students are more uh, they have these kind of staining and all this happens when little children, they suddenly attain puberty. So
Absolutely.
at that time, when if you are in a co-ed school or something, the girls are seeing as much as the boys are seeing, as much as the
Absolutely.
teachers are seeing. So uh, it it should be a part of sex education. I mean, the very word actually scandalizes the parents. They do not want their children to be sex
Children
educated.
to pronounce that word
Uh-huh.
even, know that
Yeah.
word even.
Yeah, no, we don't want our children. They are made, the sex education sessions are made optional. They are
Right.
not compulsory,
Mhm.
because of the pressure that the
Right.
parents will dislike it. They'll have a lot of displeasure. But we can call it something else. We can say gender awareness or whatever we can say, but that education has to propagate. Call it
Absolutely.
what, call it
Thank
whatever.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Ms. Banerjee.
Thank you,
Thank you
Lisa.
for throwing light on the subject. We really
Yeah.
needed to know, and people needed to know about this. We
Right.
have Ms. Saira Shaha
Thank
Halim
you.
waiting with us, and I would like her to join with us. She's from Kolkata. She's an amazing social worker and a peace activist. She's a tech speaker. She has written books, I guess. She's a writer as well. And she's also, hi, Miss Halim.
Hi.
And
Hi, hi.
you are also an image and brand consultant.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this session today. We're really pleased to have you here. So, I'll just drop into the question, Miss Halim. You are an activist. You work for the people at the ground level, if I understand. What I understand here is. So, my question to you is while working to this ground reality, what all problems have you faced, and let's talk about how to deal with them, because there are other people also who are trying to work like this. So I guess that would be really helpful for them, how to deal with such problems.
Sure. Thanks so much, Lisa. Thanks, Sahachari. Thanks, Nafisa, for having me over on such a
We are blessed.
pertinent topic. Yeah, on World Hygiene Day. So we know that there's a lot of dichotomy between urban, menstrual hygiene as well as rural hygiene. Now, if you look at these statistics, if you look at the Nelson report and everything, so majority of the reports say that only 12% of women have access to menstrual hygiene products. Okay, but I think that is not really the case. A lot of women have access to menstrual hygiene products, but it's not satisfactory. I will not say that it is completely satisfactory, because we still have a really long way to go. So supposing we say that it's 78% of women who have access to menstrual hygiene products, I would say they are about uh, not 48, I would say about 42 to 43% of women who do not have access to menstrual hygiene products in villages. So we know that it's so much of a taboo. Like, women have to break different uh, paths to actually fight for equity. So when we're talking about menstrual equity, that means the gap between the urban and the rural areas has to be equal, which is going to be very different, because in villages, the girls, especially the girls who cycle to school, they face a lot of ostracism while they go. Ostracism from the families, and ostracism, why? Because there is this kind of a apartheid system in schools, where the toilets are meant only for the boys. You'll be surprised to know that in rural areas, hardly a few schools actually cater to bathrooms for girls. Now tell me, if a girl has to change her pad, so where is she going to go change? Barring that, there's so many stigmas staining the uniform and so many other things, and we know that in a lot of societies, women and girls get segregated once they start the menstrual cycle. In
I
Nepal,
guess
for
that is.
example, yeah, for
No,
example,
please go on.
in
Mm-hmm.
Nepal, there's a separate hut known as a menstrual hut,
Ah,
where girls are, kind of segregated, and they've been told to keep there till your menstrual cycle is not over. So what Antara was talking about is, okay, we don't need to over glorify. I have a different take, that we need to normalize the menstruation cycle as a physiological and biological process. There is no need to glorify. There's no need to shame girls and women. Like in our time, probably we used to the if you went to a store, the guy was packing the menstrual this sanitary napkin in a newspaper and handed it over in a
exactly.
black packet, right?
Exactly.
So now
Yes.
the emphasis is, all right, I'm like walking into more and I'm shopping, and there's nothing shameful. You're not hiding. What's the need to hide? What is so shameful? I think people need to normalize. Okay, I will kind of not use the word glorify. I will say we need to normalize a physiological cycle and start a conversation. Talk to not only the girls in the family, also talk to adolescent boys, to gender sensitize them about a very normal thing, so that they know that it's not something shameful. It is not something that you do hush hush and talk in whispers about. Now, for example, there's a lot of
At
talk.
least if somebody is facing such problem around him, he knows what to do. That's what the
Yeah,
responsibility
absolutely,
tells him.
Lisa. So you must be knowing, because I have worked in the corporate sector for years, and what happens is now people have started giving employees, a lot of organizations, they started giving period leave. So now it
Hmm.
is not
Yes.
too much of an ask. I'll tell you why. Because when I got my first period, I was 15 years old, and probably my mother was worried. I was very thin and scrawny and lean and had a very fragile thing. But it's like considered that, oh, okay, like if you are 12, 13 and you get your period, it's considered that you become like a woman. So everyone needs to know that everyone's body is not the same. Everybody has a different thing. But I think what is needed is urban areas, people do have access to menstrual hygiene products. What awareness, what we need to do is, along with the rural, education, we need to also elevate the urban education of what we are doing with the wastage, what we are
Right.
doing with the monthly wastage. So I will tell you about
Absolutely.
one thing, and I feel all women, all girls must try this. For the last 6, 7 months, I have switched to a menstrual cup.
Mm-hmm.
And I would advocate the usage of a menstrual cup to every woman out there. Yeah, initial few times you feel out of the woods. You feel like this is something, an alien object, which you put into your cervix and what it is going to be like. But after a few cycles, you adjust to it, and you just have to wash it. It's made of uh, silicone, it's like a funnel, which is made
I know.
of,
I use that
yeah,
myself. I have been using it for like 2 years now. And trust
yeah.
me, I do not wish to go back to pads anymore.
I
They're
don't wish
super
to go back to
comfortable.
pads. It's super comfortable. So using this momentous occasion, which is being, talked about the entire world, I would like to advocate this personally. That look, when we're using pads, we really don't care about what we are doing with the toxic waste. Where is going
One
to
more
float?
thing, I'm sorry I'm interrupting in between, but this is
It's
just
okay.
my personal experience. I have spoken, as I said, I myself use menstrual cups. I've
Mm,
spoken to urban women for switching to menstrual cup, like you said.
mm,
So what they say at this age is, oh, we only use 4 to 5 pads a month. But they don't understand that one woman saying 4 to 5 pads and 3 million women doing the same thing, where is the waste
will add,
contributing to?
yeah. So I will tell you one thing, Lisa. Yeah, you asked a very important question. So I was also, kind of in that transition mode from pads to menstrual cup, and I was thinking, I've never used tampons. Okay, so I've like made that
Same, right?
transition from sanitary pads to menstrual cups. So I thought that probably when the period is lighter, probably I can use a pad. Why to wear? But I said, why? I mean, why even use those 2, 3 pads? Because ultimately, as you said, it's all about multiplication. Those 2, 3 pads will
Absolutely.
add on, and everybody thinks. So I feel it is a menstrual revolution, the menstrual cup. And I feel it's a step ahead in the right direction, and all women should think about what they're going to do with the wastage. And I think the answer is this at the present time. Tomorrow there could be some another invention. Right now, this is great for sustainability. This is
Absolutely.
great for avoiding any toxic wastage. This is great for, because it's hypoallergenic and it's made of a silicon product. So world over, doctors also advocate it. So this transition has been a beautiful journey. And
And one more
I
thing
think,
which I would like to ask,
Lisa, I
using menstrual cup and advocating people about menstrual cup, I've come across this question is, can a teenager girl use a menstrual cup? Because they have this, they lose their virginity. This word comes into picture when we try and let our small kids or girls at the very early age, if they start using a menstrual cup. So this question arises that they're gonna lose their virginity. So how to go about it?
see, this whole virginity thing is again, debatable, because who's a virgin, who's not a virgin. I think we need to look at things from a new perspective. It is
Absolutely.
so. When you're talking about young girls, I would say that, look, I'm a mom of 2 young girls. So I also mentioned it that the transition is not always easy. It's not that you feel, oh, I'm going to go for a run or I'm going to start cycling. Yeah, it takes 2, 3
Absolutely.
cycles to adjust. for a young girl, like somebody who's 15, 16, 17, your body is inflexible, it is delicate. Yes. So it's something that will take some time. So I would advocate it to give it time. Okay. Take the help of your mother. Don't be in a hurry. You don't have to be the next, big
Game changer.
yeah, a game changer or something. Take your time. I think it takes time. It's taken me time to take the transition. Okay, so young girls, the body is very different from another one. Yes, it's obviously something going inside your cervix. So it's not going to be totally, like hunky dory or something like that. It will take time. Like I said, the adjustment or something. So for women who are above 18, 19, I would say please go ahead and use the menstrual cup. For girls who are little 18, I would still, I would say use the what do you call pads. Yeah, and but use something that is made of organic materials, something that is
which is not
sustainable,
hard
something.
on your body and the earth.
Yeah. Because here, rural, what they do is they use something that is totally, sometimes they're using mud, then they're using the reusable cloth.
Cow dung. They use cow
Cow
dung.
dung, and yeah, reusable cloth. So that will lead to a lot of UTI infection and a lot of other diseases. So I think what we all can do in our own sphere is to educate women in the rural area of how we need to make this transition, or even if they are voluntary groups, social groups, NGOs who can donate menstrual cups and educate them in a big way on how to use it. I think this will go down very well in rural areas. They would also avoid period poverty, because period poverty, menstrual poverty is a thing. Every year you have to go and buy a packet of Whisper that will cost you 150, 200 rupees, right? So on the other hand, you're saving money annually. And if you just purchase this for 500 rupees, you're sorted for the next 5 years. So it makes a lot of sense. And I think we need to I really advocate the usage of menstrual cups, especially in the rural belt.
Thank you so much. So, Ms. Nafisa, we have our next topic that we educate this rural women about menstrual cups. So, you're not audible, Ms. Yasmin.
Is it okay?
I guess no, you're not good. We're not able to hear you properly.
Okay, I will come with my question again.
Okay, so till that time, thank you so much, Saira, for talking to us and actually educating people about the sustainability products of menstruation and talking about how to go about this. Thank you so much. We'll certainly continue this topic maybe some other time over a phone or something. I have really good things to discuss and talk to you. Till then, we have Ananya Mukherjee waiting for us. I'm going to put you to the backstage, Ms. Halim, if that's an call upon.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Ananya. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much.
Right. Ananya, you are a corporate communication leader and an author of a best-selling book. So, you have done your own research and everything for writing a book, for many other streamings. So my question would be that what are as we also discussed it with Saira, what are the sustainable remedies and changes that we can act upon for this menstrual hygiene?
Thank you. First of all, I think, Nafisa, I should be very, very grateful to you and Lisa and to Shahochari for inviting me here. I am one of the panelists, I think, who's not based in India. So I live in Singapore. So I'm getting to hear a lot of what is happening in India today. And I've lived in India about 25 years back. So that was a long time back. So from where I left India to where I am today, I don't think so much has changed, but I do hear some good things. And I know, I think Saira has already covered that bit about the remedies, the sustainable remedies. And as we speak about them, I think the first thing, and if you can, sustainable is a good thing to have.
Right.
It's always a good thing to have, but at the end of the day, it just comes to looking at the problem first and then finding a solution and finding a sustainable solution then. So I think when we're looking at the problem, the issue here, and as I hear it from, of course, there is a huge disparity between urban India and rural India, and India and the rest of the world, or maybe India and Singapore. It's a fair comparison maybe to make is a comparison between India and Singapore, where I am. If you look at rural India, I think, and that's where your area of intervention is, your area of interest is. I've spent a few years, a lot of my growing up years happened in India, but not in rural India. But as a journalist, I have visited a lot of parts of rural India. And when I did that, there is a huge lack of education. I think the first thing is people are not informed. They're not educated. They're not aware. So
they're not aware.
So the first need is to spread that awareness. What can happen if you don't do this? If you don't practice menstrual hygiene? I think that is where we need to start. That's the root cause, right? People don't know. They practice things that have been told to them from their mothers and their grandmothers, and they,
that's like the generation flow that's going on.
And how do we then support? It is very easy to say that, yes, let's get them menstrual cups, let's get them a pad, but you need to support. There is the whole thing of using a cloth or cow dung doesn't come from the rich families in the villages. It comes
Absolutely.
from privileged families who cannot afford. So it obviously in the list of priorities, do I get my bread and rice or do I get a pad? It's a choice, right? It's a priority. How do we make it affordable? How do we make it possible for them to be able to have access to those facilities to start with? So
right.
First, educate them, make them aware. And I heard, one of our speakers talk about UTI, and there are lots of other bacterial infections people can get because of bad menstrual hygiene. I think to educate that is important, to bring that into the system, our social system, where NGOs work, where we work with the village community. And as Nafisa was saying, sometimes it's difficult for an outsider to step into the village. And I think that's where you need to partner with the locals, because they speak the same language, right? So somebody from the village, if a neighbor comes and tells you, I have been using this has been very good, and it is free, or it is like this, for a few rupees only, then you start taking that as a word of comfort and as a word that, that's, there is credibility in that endorsement, I think. So partnering there, I think education, awareness, partnering with the locals. When I grew up in India, I passed out of school 25 years, 30 years back. I was lucky I was in a co-educational school. We did not have sex education. We had a biology class which spoke about reproduction, human reproduction system. And I remember that chapter, that lesson was saved for our grade 10, because we were expected only to understand it in grade 10. So 8th, 9th, 10th, we would be following the ICSE curriculum, but we waited until grade 10 so that the boys would really understand what it is, where it is coming from.
But we do attain our puberty at the age of 12 or 13, but we're still waiting to reach the age of 16 to educate them.
Educate people. And funnily enough, it was a convent school, and we would get our Carefree used to be a very popular brand in those days. So we would get free of Carefree every time somebody would come from that brand. But the girls were called to an auditorium and, given, and they would just hide it in their bags and go back. And the boys would be surprised. What free gifts are you getting that we are not getting? So it's funny. It's really funny. However, I would say I would give this credit to my school. We did have a senior girls washroom that was exclusively for senior girls. And we did have sanitary napkins in that washroom. So that was there, stacked for any accident, any emergency. Somebody, forgets to bring their napkins or somebody starts leaking. So that was there. So our school did take care of that. Having said that, and it's so interesting, cut to 2020 or 2019, and I'm in Singapore working for huge multinational company, and this is one of my previous organizations, where there was no sanitary napkin in the women's toilet. It's sparkling clean. Everybody maintains hygiene. Everybody knows about it. The men are all IIT, IIM graduates, expatriates from the best business schools in the world. Nobody talks about periods or the need to have sanitary napkins in the washroom. And there would be colleagues sitting in meetings whispering, "Do you have an extra one in your bag?" And typically, having grown up in India, I would always have one in my bag. Because I
right. Oh, do you have a pad with you?
Do you have a pad with you? And I would pick that up and she would sneak out with it and go to the washroom. So I took it up with our HR and I said, "Hey guys, we, as much as we need a nursing room for women, we also need to have a vending machine. Let's have a vending machine. Fine, you don't want to pay for it? Let's forget it. Let's have like a 50 cents or something in, but let's have a vending machine." The response I got was amazing. My HR head, and I feel funny quoting him, he said, "Oh, the next thing would be asking for condoms." And I said, "Excuse me? A sanitary napkin and a condom are not exactly the same things." And the man talking to me, he's talking to the, I was the head of.
I mean, condom is a choice, but sanitary napkin is not a choice. It is a need.
And that holds true today. So we need to educate our men. And we need to stand up for ourselves and have that conversation, that brave conversation, where I say, "Excuse me, if that is the level of sensitivity you have, I think the next thing you need is a couch, because you're obviously looking for a condom in the office." You know, that's how insensitive people can be. Also, the other thing is that you're growing in your career, in your corporate, we all end up being in that age group between 45 and 50, where the commonest, tippani, as we say in India, is she's going through a PMS. Well, I bet
you heard that so much.
So much, right? Or one of those PMS moods. No, I trashed you.
And what if we are? My question is, what if we are? It is a thing. It is not something that we've made. It is a thing.
And you don't have to feel vulnerable about it. But going back to the times of Draupadi, if you look back at Mahabharat, the day she was dragged into the court, it is emphasized that she was having her periods, remember? So that is to make her feel as vulnerable, right? She's so vulnerable, she's having her periods, and these men drag her into the court. It is exactly the same thing, she's having her PMS. I've just recently watched this Bollywood film.
I guess it's a new word that men have come up with, or they've learned recently, and they're just using it without knowing it. What it actually is.
Absolutely.
And I guess we have Miss Yasmin. She needs to ask something.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. You need to unmute yourself, Miss Nafisa.
Yeah, Ananna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So, what do you suggest us how to run the project in rural area?
I think the best way is to partner with, bring rural volunteers into your system so that they become the voice. They are your ambassadors, because they will connect better with the rural women to be able to tell them why a cow dung and how a cloth is different from a pad. And then they will give you the feedback, the real feedback from the ground. How can you make it slightly better, slightly cheaper? What can happen if this is given free of cost, like ration? Will it really make a difference if people got it free of cost? And can you raise funds for that? Can you work with sponsors to be able to support that cause? And it's not a huge cost. It is, there is, of course, if you're talking about spreading it across, it is a huge cost, but you can start slow. You can start with a project, with a pilot, work with the rural volunteers and make sure that you have buy-in from them, because it's all about changing mindsets, whether it is rural or whether I'm talking about the high-flying corporate who's sitting as the head of HR in a multinational company and talking to me about condoms. So it's about mindsets, and it doesn't matter how educated you are, it doesn't matter which part of the world you're living in, which society you come from, which car you drive, or where you live. It's educating them and then supporting them. So supporting women in the rural areas with access to sanitary napkins and awareness about what could go wrong if they don't follow this hygiene. And I think in the urban area, of course, women need to just stand up for themselves and make a noise. And I will give you another very small example. I'm a storyteller, so I love giving examples as I speak. Like I said, I grew up in a co-educational school, and those were the days where I wouldn't even tell my friends that I was having my periods. We would say, "Oh, I'm just, I've got a bad abdominal pain and chums, and I don't want to talk about it, etc., etc." So my best friends ended up being my male friends. I've been my buddies I've grown up with, but I still wouldn't talk to them about it. Very recently, before the COVID situation, we went on a holiday together. And luck would have it, for some weird reason, I ended up having my period dates moved, and I had it right in the middle of a holiday with all my male friends up there in Gorumara, where obviously it is quite remote, and I was unprepared. And I just had to tell myself, come on, this is enough. I need a car. I need a driver. I need to go to the nearest pharmacy. So I walked out and I told my guys who were sitting there, I said, guys, I've got a issue. I've got my periods. I need to get my pads. And the same guys who were like, oh, what? Yeah, okay. They were like, oh, really? Okay, no worry, take the car, go, get it. And when I went to the store, which was a pharmacy, he was wrapping it up in a newspaper. And I said, don't waste that paper. I can take a packet of Whisper and walk back, please. Like, why do you need to wrap it up and give it to me like that? So I think, again, women need to make it very, very clear to our society that just as you get your paracetamol, I'm getting your Band-Aid and my sanitary napkin are exactly the same thing. I don't want to be bleeding and leaking. And so I need my napkins. I think that is on us. That onus lies on us, on how we fight stigma.
Thanks, Ananya. Thanks. Lisa, will you please take over? Thanks, Ananya. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you, Ananya. Thank you for actually educating us so much on it. Thank you for sharing your own experience. I hope people will be able to relate to them. And the next we have with us is Miss Nandini Sarkar. Thank you, Miss Nandini Sarkar, for joining us in.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Nandini Sarkar, you're from Bangalore, and you are an inclusion strategist, cultural curator, and a policy of advocacy coach, and an influencer as well.
I try to be.
We welcome you here on this platform to talk about menstrual hygiene. So my question to you would be, what is the present situation in schools and institutions about menstrual hygiene? We know what has happened 5 years back. We never had this conversation in school, but what is the present situation right now?
So, I would try to address it in maybe 2 to 3 parts, because
please go ahead.
I come from a corporate background, so I work with a big global giant called Boeing, and I'm based in Bangalore as the equity, diversity, and inclusion leader. And I'm also part of Confederation of Indian Industry, and I'm the chairwoman for Indian Women Network Karnataka chapter. So clubbing all those roles together and getting the influencer in me aroused. As we try to become a part of the solution, let's start with some reality checks. Could be a repetition, but I suppose that would be a re-emphasis of the need. So menstruation is a definitive part of a normal and healthy life for roughly about 26% of the global population who are of reproductive age. Now, in any one day, over 800 million women and girls have their periods around the world. Now, if we spotlight...
That's quite a big number.
That's quite a big number. Now, let me spotlight on India. 335 million women menstruate. That accounts to nearly 30% of the country's population. Now, over 23 million girls drop out of school every year when they start menstruating.
That's
a big chunk. That's the reality. Because if you're trying to be a part of the solution, it's always better to assess the reality first and see where the gap lies. Now, 31.2 0.27% urban girls and 71.42% of rural girls reused sanitary pads during menstruation. There's a huge gap with respect to hygiene practices in rural and urban areas. So keeping this on our mind, I would want to quote Mark Twain here. He said, whenever you find yourself on the side of a majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Aka, I call it reformation. So as I pause and reflect, I would, with you today, let's think together to carve out a solution to this nagging challenge. And it all begins with seeking. And I'd continue to do that through my pitch. Do we truly realize that menstruation is just a biological process? We celebrate birth. So is it procreation associated with menstruation cycle? What's been our societal construct and mindset around menstruation? Only 37.2% of girls are aware of menstruation at a pre-onset. That is quoted in a study. So did parenting stages involve educating our girls to accept their body the way it is designed and prepare them mentally and emotionally for the menstruation, pre-onset of puberty? And what about educating the boys at home and boys at school? How have the men and women in our own families and around looked up to those 5 to 7 days of the monthly cycle of a woman, daughters and girls existing in their lives? Have the basic education on health and hygiene happened in the right way to enable sensitization around menstrual notions, removing stigma and building respect for genders that coexist? Now let me give you an interesting point. We know many of us worship Goddess Shakti. And a great example of that is most sacred of all 51 Shakti Peeths. That's the Kamakhya temple where the vulva of Goddess Sati is worshipped. Please don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to get in a religious color, but there's no religious color to the biological process of menstruation. It's part of a woman's physiology, irrespective of any diversity dimensions. And I'd not miss reminding us here, not all women menstruate, and not all people who menstruate are women, bringing to light our transgender community.
This is a very good point that you've said, that all women don't.
Yes, it's a shame that menstruation continues to be a subject of gender disparity in India, resulting in stigma, discrimination, superstitions, and exclusion against women and girls. What we see is the existence of impurity and sacrality attached to menstruation. Else, the Shabarimala case wouldn't have erupted. We saw the watershed moment in the history of affirmative action. So coming to the corporate world, since I come from that world, feminine hygiene may not always take a center stage in every conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, we've seen the HR fraternity and the infrastructure facilities team being sensitized to the need of installing vending machines for hygiene products in the washrooms, where an employee could obtain the sanitary napkins against a nominal charge, or there are some companies like the one I come from, where we do it for free. But there are many corporates who are yet to follow suit. Washroom hygiene is a big piece and we struggle at times. That is where we leverage our employee resource groups working in the space of gender. Paid leave policies, are a trend now. We've seen many corporates announce about, 10 days off per year for their women and transgender employees to manage periods. Some think it could be managed under sick leave. So there's a debate around that.
But then this is not being sick.
This is not being sick. Yes, that's what we as DNI practitioners continue to struggle and make our voice heard, saying that hello, we are not sick.
We're not sick.
It's part of the biological process. You and me exist because of the menstruation cycle that our moms went through, right? So so there is a debate, and I'll tell you that side of the debate as well. So, it remains a debate because the questions that are asked is, are we trying to advance the cause of gender parity, or regressing the advancement. And I'll tell you the reason why. Hiring of women may seem to take a hit at the face of it. Not to forget the declining position of India with respect to women in workforce participation. And already we have 26 weeks of maternity on the roll, and POSH Act still remains a ground of challenge.
Absolutely.
So should women be hired? So the diversity hiring trend with respect to gender inclusion takes a big hit. The ongoing pandemic has disproportionately impacted the gender and the marginalized groups. So we need to do more, to tackle the elephant in the room better, because as employees near the age of menopause, we know this takes a huge toll on their emotional side with hormonal changes, and it's bound to affect their productivity at work. We need to tackle that. So some corporates channel their CSR funds into promoting entrepreneurial drives around manufacturing sanitary napkins, menstrual cups, installing vending machines, thus making them available in schools and other, rural parts of India. So this calls for a partnership around SDG 3 and SDG 5. So let's accept that women experience their PMS phase, their periods in varying severities. So building a culture of openness to talk about it, and we being sensitive to one's biological need, is just a human ask of us. So now in the scheme of things, are we missing something? What about the unorganized labor sector? What's happening around their lives, irrespective of the urban-rural divide? Now, if we turn to the schools and education systems, we do see cultural shame attached to menstruation, physical pain, shortage of period products, stop girls from going to school when they start menstruating. There's still hardships when it comes to getting access to basic water and sanitation.
Absolutely.
To deal with menstruation. And there's a lack of awareness, as taboo still exists talking about it. So cloaking menstruation adds to the agony of girls or young girls and women at the age of puberty. So philosophical it may sound, yet let's try to see with our inner eye. We'd realize that the smallest minority on earth is an individual. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defender of minorities, isn't it? So I believe that women, girls, and vulnerable groups deserve fundamental human rights. So let me converge to the need of building a community of allyship across societal tiers. And yes, we should not miss the men being in the brigade. Women talking women issues does not change society. We have to
because it is the 50% population that we live in.
Exactly. So it's our family, society, and the corporate world that we belong to. We have a dominant presence of male members. Otherwise, the diversity hiring, drives wouldn't be there to have, bolster gender inclusion. So what I see as a need is that it is not anyone's responsibility, but a collective responsibility. So what must come out of our, we all must come out of our privilege bubbles and see the world. Simple interventions could be like mandatory sex education in school curricula, focused group discussions with mothers, with girls in the age of puberty to encourage them to break their silence and speak about menstruation to their daughters. Advocate universalized use of sanitary pads or menstrual cups for women and girls, making them available to them. Amplify menstrual hygiene issues and solutions through constant messaging, leveraging media, films, and ads. Triggering influencers, and in specific, the Anganwadi groups of people should be sensitized and trained so that they reach the message to the girls at the age of puberty and their mothers. So normalizing,
that is exactly what Shahochuri is trying to do here.
Absolutely. Normalizing menstruation is a need for creating a more gender equal society and ending extreme poverty around the world. So being an optimist, I believe conversations like this are set to change the narrative around menstrual notions. So thank you, Shahochuri, for the impact you're leading in this space. It's truly amazing. And Nafisa, can't thank you enough, my dear friend, for having me here to add a voice to this movement. Humbled to be sharing the stage with eminent thought leaders and another dear friend, Antora. I continue to be inspired by each one of you and learn each day. Count me as an ally along the path. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are influenced by you. Thank you for talking about this. Thank you for making people aware about this. That is, I guess, the first prima facie thing that we are supposed to do.
Absolutely.
To bring the change that we are talking to see the change in what we expect the world to be in.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sarkar, and we are so glad having you here. And
Pleasure.
next that we have, I'm really sorry, we have been waiting for quite some time now. I'll have Professor Sujata Sharma with us. Hi, ma'am. Hi, Ms.
Hello.
Sharma.
Hi.
Dr. Sujata Sharma, she's a professor from AIIMS, especially biophysics. And you are into diets and please let us know what is your core thing that you do. And the question that I would like to ask is what kind of diet do you think that we need to follow during the menstruation? Is there any specific diet to take care of the hygiene, and not just for the urban people, but taking care how can this be implemented to the rural section of our society as well?
Yeah. First of all, let me thank Shahuchari, Lisa, Nafisa. Thank you, Nafisa, for having me here. Now, this is such a relevant question. The diet, even when there is an attempt for sex education, it's mostly, if you read in the textbooks or even in counseling, people will just tell you why you are having periods and how you should manage them. But nobody actually talks about the diet, because when you are having periods, there is so much going on in your body. And there are advertisements in which you see that girls are playing and they're jumping around, and there's a pressure on girls that when you are having periods, just run around and do whatever. Yeah, I agree with it. I also tell my daughter, just feel normal. Yet there is a need to understand that our body is going through a lot during our periods, before our periods, after our periods. And also there is one more important aspect, and that is of perimenopausal women. Just before women achieve menopause, they are going through such a traumatic time because the hormones are totally out of control. And nobody talks about this. Menopausal women just feel that maybe one day we will just reach menopause magically. We will suddenly the periods will end. But that doesn't happen. For almost 5 to 10 years, you're going through such a tough time. Sometimes they're very heavy periods, sometimes they're light, and sometimes for many months there are no periods. Sometimes for 2 months you're bleeding non-stop. So that is a time when you have to really take care of yourself. And as you said that where rural conditions are concerned, there are homes in which girls are not even given proper diets. Boys are given.
They cannot afford that kind of diet that we follow.
And so nobody is going to take this much care for them that, look, you're having periods, so we should have a different diet for you. It's like whatever is have, whatever is made, just take
just have it.
Yeah. But actually what one needs to know is that first, there's a lot of pain. I know there are varying amounts of pain, but sometimes it's very painful for girls, ladies, women, everybody. And then there is a fear of infections. Then there is bloating, which is a very, very common side effect. And of course, you have to worry about dehydration because, you are losing a lot of blood. You are also losing a lot of water from your body. So then, of course, since you're losing a lot of blood, there are conditions in which your iron is very less. I think India is one country in which most women are anemic. They have very, very low iron levels. And they feel weak all the time, tired all the time, and it is all normalized. It's even if they complain to their parents or their husbands, I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling weak, it's said, oh, never mind, and even they learn to not complain. It's so sad that they learn to complain.
It's okay if you're not feeling okay. It's okay. It's not a special or an important care that has been taken care to this.
And going to a gynecologist is such a stigma. It is such a stigma in our country. it's like you are going to a gynecologist, what's wrong with you? Girls are feeling guilty just having periods. So if they're complaining about the periods, then that's another story altogether. So they try to keep quiet about it, and that is where all the health issues start. So coming specifically to the diet, I would say that you have to make sure that the pain is minimized. And it's best if you do not depend too much on the painkillers. We are lucky, we are Indians, so we drink a lot of ginger tea, and we actually have a lot of turmeric in our, which is haldi.
Right.
And turmeric and ginger and these spices and herbs are anyway extremely, pain killer kind of, they elevate the pain and they are quite good. Secondly, you have to think about your dehydration. I know in rural conditions, girls are not able to open their mouths much. So they have to be counseled that you have to drink a lot of water, as much as you can during periods. And of course, eat a lot of fruit. For example, watermelons and other kind of melons, which give you a lot of water.
The seasonal fruits.
Yeah, the seasonal fruits. And of course, they have to keep themselves hydrated. Which is like sad, because we are talking about rural places where, sometimes there's such a scarcity of water, in such conditions. If girls want to drink water all the time, I can well imagine, but they have to be counseled. Secondly, they have to worry about infections, because a lot of times they do not change their pads and there are infections. And even when they are, when they're having very heavy periods and they're even changing the pads, even then you can get infections. So make sure that you eat yogurt and drink buttermilk. These are the cooling liquids which also nurture the good bacteria in your stomach. And then when it comes to iron loss, then since I will not want to go into too much about omega-3 fatty acids if you're talking about the rural areas, because they cannot
afford that kind of.
They cannot afford to eat fish and nuts and these kind of things, which are rich in actually omega-3 fatty acids. And they cannot go out and have a dark chocolate. But what you can do is that you can eat a lot of leafy green vegetables, like spinach, brinjal, all these kind of vegetables which are rich in iron. So that is what you can do. Then, of course, try to eat a protein-rich diet. If you cannot afford, say, chicken and expensive things like that, then please go for lentils and beans, paneer, which are very rich dairy products.
Right.
Is what you have to do. And the foods that you simply have to avoid are salty foods, mainly because you tend to retain a lot of water, because the body realizes that you're losing water, so it tends to go on an overdrive to retain water. So retention makes you feel even more uncomfortable. So try to avoid salt because it increases the water retention. Try to also avoid the highly sugary foods, because then you have a spike of sugar and it comes crashing down. You feel much worse. So maybe a little bit of sugar in your fruits, but otherwise avoid sugar. And of course, coffee and alcohol has to be avoided. But of course, this is not much in context with the rural population. So this is what you have to avoid. However, you have to know that it's not just during periods, but there is a period before periods, and that is known as premenstrual period. That is 7 days before your periods. And that is when most girls and women have PMS, premenstrual syndrome, in which they feel very moody and there's a lot of bloating. And sometimes there is breast enlargement and tenderness. That is when you have to drink a lot of water, you reduce the salt in your foods. And of course, it's best if you get cooperation from your family. But we are thinking if you don't get cooperation, then at least you can just stick to these few points and manage your way. And again, I would say that this kind of counseling needs to be done in all the schools, not just schools, but even for, because one very vulnerable population is the young girls who are just having periods. Similarly, another
We're just starting to be into the stage of having periods.
Right. They don't even understand what's going on. And then the other vulnerable population is the perimenopausal women. They're as vulnerable as the girls who just started their periods, because they are also suddenly finding themselves at the end of this entire fertility cycle, and they don't know what's going on with their body, because It's a very, very confusing time. And also your
Yeah,
hormones.
even if a girl knows that she's gonna have her periods, but her first
Yeah.
periods is always something like that that she's scared about.
Right,
And I
right.
guess that's very, very relatable. Everybody here would relate to that fact as well.
That's
Thank you
right.
so much, Dr.
Thank
Sujata.
you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Lisa.
much. And that was really a grilling one that you've told us. We'll try, and Shahachari will certainly try and help the rural people, educate them with this kind of diet thing that we have. Thank you so much. And the next we have with us is Miss Indu Punj. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Can you hear me? Am I audible? You are not audible. Lisa, I can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was just hi. You are a founder of Stories Matter. That's what
Yes.
is it? What is it?
So I'll give a little background about myself. I am an educator from past 20 plus years, and then I was director, teacher, training in an NGO, Katha. So after having taught for like 20 years in schools like DPS International Air Force School and having traveled across the country, my husband being an Air Force officer, so I've seen a lot of India, I would say. Then after accumulating all my experience and having come in touch with the stories, I started my own program where I think that stories, each one of us, as I'm listening to each and every member, each one of us has a story, and if we empathize very well with our story, it's much easier for us to understand and connect with other person's story. So each story matters, and be it rural or urban or whichever part of the country, religion or whosoever, every person's story is most important to that person himself, or
Absolutely.
we would say. First of all, thanks Nafisa and thanks Liza, thanks Sahojari for having me, and I am really glad I have listened to such esteemed panelists, and most of the points that I wanted to cover, they've covered. Like I would say Ananya, Nandini and Saira, most of them have spoken one point, which is like we should not attach shame with menstruation. This is what we need to teach our children and parents. Majorly, we have to teach our parents that there is no shame attached and we can talk about it openly. That's the point I think I have taken from them. And yes, I'm really honored to
Yeah,
be
right.
part
My
of.
question to you was this: that how do you think, or how are we supposed to counsel the parents and the teachers or our society to talk about menstruation as a whole?
Yes,
How to counsel them at a very starting age when they're
yes.
actually attaining puberty?
Thank you, Lisa, for the question. Yesterday only, as I have published this video about it, I think Nandini or Ananya mentioned about it, that why are we not talking about this to our boys? So my story that I have read from this book, What's the Big Secret? Can you all see? Yeah. So this says the same, that we keep it as a secret and we are somehow apprehensive about mentioning this, reproductive thing, which is very natural, which comes naturally to each and every girl, and we still are not open about it. We are tight-lipped about it. We do not discuss it openly. So it's extremely important. And as one of them also mentioned that they started it in class 10. I, being a biology teacher myself, we in IGCSE, this is taken up in class 6. So when this chapter on reproductive system came, and I requested my principal, ma'am, it's too early to teach, reproduction to, they've come to class 6, and can we take up in the end of the year? She said, no, this is the age, because we think they are not mature, because media nowadays, there's a lot of information overload and they are getting exposed to sexual content on media through, let's say, Netflix, everywhere. there's a lot of exposure, and children may get misled. So it's better we teach them properly. This is the right way, I would say, as teachers, as counselors, as school leaders, as NGO heads, we should teach them. Once we know the facts properly, this is a normal biological process, and this is how.
I interrupt. What age you might suggest? What is age for a
Age is 11 years. The story also says each 11-year-old has the right to know. So we say 10 to 11 years. These days, with a lot of, I would say, maturity levels coming really down. I have had girls as young as grade 4 having their chums and periods. So we can think of towards the 5th end, because it's not that every child would have. So for some, it can be like a shock. They can get into, it can be really very premature to handle such a big thing. It's much better to do it towards the end of 5th and beginning of 6th. And we teach them properly as bio teachers or counselors or subject experts, anybody from the field, or like doctor, we can call doctors. And we should guide them not only about the changes in their physical body, about their emotional changes, their mood swings. They can have irritability, there can be acne. Then, of course, as we've just been talking about nutrition part of it. So everything, if they're guided well about their emotional, physical, all these changes, I'm sure children can be much better prepared. If children themselves are prepared, parents will also be able to talk freely. And second thing is mothers. Fathers may be a little apprehensive, but mothers should now start talking openly about it. As a mother, I think in class 4th end or 5th, I had taught my daughter properly that this is what are the changes that your body is going to undergo. It can happen now, it can happen 2 years later, but this is the cycle that a girl undergoes, and these are the physical uncomfortable days and how you have to learn to tackle with it. Then comes the rest of the things come when the child experiences this. So if they're aware, if they're taught about it in advance, I'm sure it's much easier for them. Second thing, that with this age, it's not a drill only about menstruation, it is about the wrong information, as other panelists have talked about infections. I think it's very important to also educate them about precautions. Once they start menstruating, the other aspect is equally I would give you a very strange thing about it. I was a class teacher of class 7, and during my PTM, one of the parents said, "Ma'am, are you aware what your students talk about?" I said, yeah, what is it? She said, in the evening, they talk about whom are they going to lose their virginity in class 7. And this is way back in, I would say, 10 years back, because this was an international school and these kids had come from abroad. So being teachers and parents, we are very, naive about the fact that our children are very small, they would not know. We have to wake up, because this is coming down. Whatever used to happen in our times and at class 9, 10 level, it's happening at 4, 5 level now. They're
Absolutely, and
already,
that has to happen with
they're
the
already
kind of
in
access.
relations. Yes. So it is very imperative that we teach not only about menstruation, we also teach them about safety and precautions and about STDs. Everything should be
Absolutely.
brought down. Even by CBSE, I think they need to revise their curriculum. They should bring it to class, and now if not 6, at least 7. By beginning of 7th, the children should have been taught about reproductive system and the things attached with all the changes
Absolutely.
involved.
At least by that time they have the right kind of knowledge and they do not actually hear about the myths and they carry forward them.
Also, we say there is a acceptability of how much can you retain the information. At very young age they will not understand, because the mind is not mature enough to take it. But I'm sure at 6th and 7th level, these days kids are extremely smart.
They have to, because, and see, this pandemic situation, even the smaller ones, they have the access to internet, they see through things, they have questions. So the questions at the right age, at the right way needs to be addressed.
Yes.
so that they also do not fall for the myths and the taboos that we have gone through, I guess. The
Yes.
initiation has to start from us. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Punj. And your video was really amazing. I've had a go through to that.
Yeah, I would
And
like to
I'll
say that
be,
Such Stories Matter is my channel's name. If you can see this video, you would be aware of what I'm talking about. Yeah.
absolutely. So I'll be switching to Miss Nafisa.
Thanks, Lisa. And I'm really
Thank you so much for having me here. I guess our last speaker, but not the least, was Miss Punj. We have no one else left, and I'm switching to Miss Nafisa to go through.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for all your good effort. I have a few questions for speakers. Saira, there's a question for you. This is if you was talking about menstrual cup. My question is how you suggest, because when we are going to the rural area, they are not getting proper drinking water even, first of all. Second of all, they are not able to clean the clothes, whatever they are using. So how, if we make a habit of menstrual cup, so how it will be cleaned, because cleaning process is a very important, as we know. If you are using menstrual cup and the facility available in urban area is not available in rural area, so they
Yeah.
use all pond water or river water. So how you, what do you suggest?
Yeah, you're right, absolutely, Nafisa. See, using what you call disposing of the menstrual waste, like in a basin or a pot or otherwise, is much more hygienic than using cow dung or using grass or something like that. So, rural area, the health and sanitation will always be a challenge. So what I'm trying to talk about, you know, reaching a sustainable way to end period poverty. So supposing we are telling them to purchase a packet of, say, a particular brand of sanitary napkins, which will cost them 150, 200 rupees a month. And we keep telling them to invest 200, 200, 200, every month. So what I'm saying is that if we somehow find a way through voluntary groups, through NGOs, self-care, or even people who can afford it. Women are, a lot of them are financially independent because all of them do some kind of work, right? They could be manual laborers, they could be working in rural areas in different unorganized sector also. What we are simply saying, it's a one-time investment of 500 rupees, which is going to last you for 5 years. So if you look at the math, 200 into 12 per year and 500 rupees investment for 5 years, what makes better sense? So if we can somehow be amplify this to the government and through the other NGOs, self-help groups, to amplify this issue on sustainability and also ensure that there is zero wastage when the menstruation cycle occurs, I think it is something that is workable. It is something that is totally doable. We can achieve it. It's not something that is a very difficult task, unsurmountable task to achieve. Like I said earlier, because of various international surveys, people said that only 12% of rural women have access to sanitation hygiene products. But there are other reports that are coming out that it's not 12%, it could be more than 40%. So if 40% women are using sanitation, hygiene products, why can't we convert those women and tell them this is a one-time investment and it will sustain you for 5 years? So there has to be a roadmap. Like I said, you can't do it alone. We need to have different vending machines. We need to have the local governance bodies who are going to help us in this regard. You have your panchayats, you have your local governance, bodies, different governance bodies who are going to help in this very particular, initiative. So, like I said, it's not just an individual idea or something that one person's planning. It has to be collective action. It has to be collectible and a sustainable action plan, and that is how we're able to achieve it. So we need to take the men into confidence, self-help groups, train them in how to make different biodegradable sanitary napkins, even if the menstrual cups is another alternative. But the word is organic, because the toxic wastage is something that is really worrying. And I think we really need to educate them in the rural belt regarding the wastage.
I agree with you regarding this, whatever you say. Biodegradable and environmental sustainability is a very, very big issue that we should take care. And our coming, this environmental day is coming, so that is another issue is coming. So today we have to wind up. It was a session of 30 minutes. Now we are covering almost 1.5 hour. So I'm really thankful to all my speakers, Ananda, Saira, Antra, and Nandini, Sujata, Indu, everyone. I'm really thankful and for joining us this session. I have something more to say. Our product we have, this is 100% biodegradable product. So I request all the women who are using it pad, so you can buy from us, you can use it, and I hope you will like it. And by using it, you will help your social sister to get, because this fund will go to our Shauchari fund, and from where we can cater more underprivileged women for giving them free pads and all other amenities. And definitely the suggestion which has come from this today's discussion, we will obviously take all of them, and I will especially the menstruation cup and alternative whatever has come, that is we will take in our count. And lastly, I will say living room stories. This is the digital giving for thanks to them, the entire team of Living Room Stories, to giving us this wonderful platform and this organizing this show. And I hope everyone enjoyed this. And anything, any point anyone wishes to add, so you're welcome. Anyone? Okay, so thanks for joining us. We will connect for any other session any other day. Okay, thank you so much.